It's being hailed as a new chapter for Toronto. The city and the province have agreed on a new deal that will result in billions of dollars in funding being unlocked. Mark Mcallister was there for the announcement. Mark, break it down for us. Just how big of a deal is this?
This is fairly significant when it comes to trying to help the city out with its long-term finances. Obviously, both Premier Ford and Mayor Chow standing next to each other for the third time over the course of a couple of months, with this working group working behind the scenes to try and get something done. It is pretty significant in that it breaks down a number of different ways. $1.3 billion for the city in operating funds over the next 3 years. What does that mean exactly? That means helping with the operating fund for the TTC. It also helps get more police officers patrolling the TTC, according to the Premier, new homeless shelters and beds, which is obviously very important right now. But the big ticket item is the idea that the province is now going to take on the responsibility and the budget for the Gardiner Expressway and the Don Valley Parkway. Obviously, that has been a big deal for some time, the city having to take on the cost and the expenses for those highways, when in fact many of the people that travel those highways are in fact from outside of Toronto. But a part of this as well is housing and making sure that the city exceeds its housing targets. And the other thing, the underlying thing, although it will come to the surface, is the idea that the province will in fact have the opportunity to move ahead with its plans for Ontario Place, which obviously has seen some opposition both in Toronto and from the mayor at this point as well. So that is going to amount to more discussion, but it's a trade-off. Premier Ford at one point saying that a good deal is always something that no one necessarily is 100% complete and happy with. But they also want to make sure that this is a three-way street. And in fact, the federal government is going to be step up and take part in this conversation as well. Here's what both of them had to say earlier.
We still need the feds at the table. We're again calling on the federal government to step up as a full partner and provide their fair share of funding for things like shelter supports and transportation infrastructure. Toronto is too important to Ontario and Canada's economy. We need all levels of government working together.
This is a structural change that will unlock billions over the next 10 years. But of course, it doesn't take us all the way there. That's why I'm very thankful the province and the city have agreed to continue this conversation.
And that, of course, is key, the timing of all of this. How much of this will certainly help the city in the short term in terms of helping with that budget shortfall we speak about often, and how quickly how will they be able to sustain this over the course of the long term, which has been a big part of the conversation as well. I did have a chance to speak with the city manager, Paul Johnston, shortly thereafter. He said, of course, this is about having the ability to bring people together, putting a structure together so that the city and the province can continue with those discussions. Melissa.
Mark, we're just learning these details just a short time ago, and some very big ticket items we're talking about here. As you've been just beginning to sift through some of these details, is there a winner in this deal, the city or the province?
It's an interesting question because, as mentioned, Premier Ford said not everyone is going to be happy with what is a good deal. But if you break it down a little bit, it potentially is a big win for the province in the end. Not only do they get to hold on to the highways, which is obviously a big expense, but much of the debate surrounding the Gardiner Expressway is whether or not it's going to be torn down or left an elevated expressway. This gives the province the opportunity to make sure it remains an elevated expressway. And as mentioned as well, Ontario Place has been very contentious. This gives the go-ahead for the province to move ahead with its plan for its mega spa, as many people called it, down on the lakeshore.
I know Ford's calling this a bit of a game changer. It sure does sound like that. We're going to get more details from you coming up tonight on City News 5 and 6. Thanks for that, Mark.
Thank you.